Hi, Electric Roo here. Today I have a short video on one of the transistor radios I have in my collection that I got around to messing around with and fixing. I haven't been making too many videos because I had some surgery and then a dang tick got me and I had Lyme disease, so I've been out of operation pretty much for the whole summer. Anyway, this was a pretty neat idea, I guess, back in time. This was a Candle family radio, model ATR-80A. And what sets this apart, I guess they had in mind, well, we can't get the lid off here. I guess they had in mind that this would be a radio the whole family could use because it was portable. You could take it with you. Plus, let's open it up here and take it out. It has an AC option with an adapter that plugs in on the back here to provide operation on AC power if you wanted to sit it in your house or some sort of thing like that. The only issue with this radio was, of course, it needed recapped. I'll talk a little bit about that because they are difficult to get apart. Was the gold trim under here. When you find a lot of these radios, you find them and that gold has separated and lifted, and it's so thin, it's like a foil that's attached to a type of material that's glued together and sandwiched and glued in there. This is what it should look like. You notice this is more of a flat gold shine because I had replaced it. This is what it should look like. So, did this cause a change in what this radio is worth because I replaced the foil on here? Because I could only find a flat foil that I replaced in there, because if you see from that picture, the original, it's got like a corrugated feel to it. But it really doesn't matter. I think people pay too much for these anyway. I have a number of radios in my collection, and it just amazes me sometimes what people will pay for radios. Now this one, being unique as it is, let me take the back apart here. I think it's just kind of cool because I've never saw a small one. Usually the bigger portables sometimes have AC. They're AC/DC. Let's pop this off here. There we go. So what you would do is you would plug the adapter in, but you take the battery connector and you connect it there. And then you would plug the adapter in, which is here. And basically what's inside here, it's just a transformer. The only thing I had to do was this capacitor that was inside, it was shorted. So I replaced that. And it's just a transformer isolation, 120 volt down to about 13 volts, and plugs in, and it works. And this is an 8 transistor. I know they made different variations, but this one's an 8 transistor. So we replaced all the caps in here. And to get this apart, oh yes, also I wanted to show you, this is a selenium rectifier. I think the says Toyo SELEN K14 to change the AC into the DC. Now, selenium rectifiers, they can run for a long time as long as they're not damaged. For some reason, this one, I'll show you the plates. There are a number of these plates inside, and you see this is the selenium coating, and this actually forms a diode here. I'll show you, we'll put a meter across this. Let me grab my meter. And if we put our meter across it, we can actually see it reads like a diode. Well, let's get this on here. And see, no conduction that way. And here we have. So it just like a regular diode. And these plates are sandwiched in there. And there are 4 of them. All 4 plates here, and they form a full wave rectifier. Of course, there were dividers and such in between, and you had the connections that came out. What I did was I took this apart and I replaced it with a dual inline pin, one of those small rectifiers, a DF06M, 1.5 amp, which didn't need 1.5 amp, but these guys are small. 600 volt bridge rectifier, didn't need to be 600 volt either. And it worked pretty good. Mounted inside, and actually it works. Replaced the caps, all the capacitors, and power supply. These were actually the caps in the power supply here from the rectifier, filtering caps, and there's some various resistors in there, but the radio works pretty nice. To get one of these apart, you have to be really careful. You can take these screws out, and what you need to do is slide this cover out. Now this cover clips in here. There's 2 spots. You have to be really careful. Down, I don't think you can see it, but down in under here and under here, I kind of worked it because it has the little straight plastic clip has an edge on it, so it locks in. And you have to be careful because I could see how it could break real easy, especially on old plastic. And actually what I had to do was I had to slide the antenna out and get under this side, and I worked it. And once you take that off and you take this off, the power and volume control knob, it'll slide right off and pull off, and there's a screw on the tuning knob. Then you can commence removing all the screws. There are several screws in here in the unit to remove those to pop it out. The volume control is pretty unique in the on and off switch, in that there's 2 switches in here for the power. One switches the 9 volts, and the other switches the power from the rectifier. So I'll show you what this looks like when I pulled the circuit board out. So here's the handful of capacitors that I replaced on the board here. And I noticed in all these capacitors, they had increased in value. So this was the power supply capacitor. But what I usually do when I'm go to replace caps in the radio, I'll go through the radio, and because sometimes it's hard to see what you replaced and what you haven't, I'll just mark them with a marker to know that those are the ones that I got to come out, and what I had replaced. Especially if you go back to it later, you'll scratch your head and say, which ones did I replace? But all in all, it's a nice playing radio. It looks good. These come in various colors. They have a really sharp blue looking color, orange. I've seen them. I haven't seen these come up in the Radio Attic very often. Sometimes they do, and once in a while on eBay, but sometimes people bid these things up way more than I think they're worth. So that's all I have for today. Oh yeah, this is the gold foil that I replaced in there. You can buy this. It's just a gold foil over a paper, and it took me a couple times getting that traced out and getting the proper cuts there, but with an X-Acto knife, but it worked out pretty good. And of course the center in the volume control knob, that was just a round piece, so we punched out. Actually, paper punch worked real good just to punch out those, and you get a nice fit in there. So that's all I have for today. Have any questions? Send a message.